Thank you, councillors. It's 6 p.m. and the CEO Performance Review Committee is hereby open. The meetings will be conducted in accordance with the City of Wanneroo Standing Orders, Local Law of 2021, and for the avoidance of doubt and in accordance with Clause 9.6, the Standing Orders and the committee presiding person may determine that a committee meeting will be conducted in full compliance with the Standing Orders, including those sections which are not explicitly stated to apply to the committee meetings. This determination to be effected by a declaration by the presiding person at the opening of the meeting. As presiding member of the CEO Performance Policy Committee and in accordance with Clause 9.6, the City of Wanneroo Standing Orders, Local Law, I declare that all provisions of the Standing Orders will apply to conduct this meeting, and I have declared the meeting open. Acknowledgement to country. Good evening, councillor, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on the Wujak Noongar Budja, and I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past, present and future. I thank all of past and present members of the community and have supported the city to better understand the values of Noongar culture within the City of Wanneroo. So the announcement, obviously, councillors, we are live streaming tonight. Please note that audio can be picked up. Be mindful to observe the normal processes when it comes to that. Attendances will be as per the register, and we are all in attendance. And I do wish to acknowledge that Mrs. Hardcastle is here from Learning Horizons as part of her duties as our CEO reviewer. There are no apologies, and I just need a confirmation of the minutes. Can I have a mover? Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Berry. All those in favour? Oh, no. Say yes. Sometimes I go faster than them up there. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 4, reports. If there are any declarations of interest, please, councillors, let us know the nature and extent of that declaration and fill out the appropriate paperwork for administration afterwards. So we are going to bring forward the key performance indicators of 26-27. So Ms Hardcastle can deal with that item. So I need a mover and a seconder. Mayor Aitken is moving, seconded by Councillor Rowe. Will please vote on that one, please, to bring that item forward. Yep. And then we will now need a motion to go behind closed doors. Can I please have a mover? Mayor Aitken, seconded by Councillor Wright. All those in support of going behind closed doors? That is 4-1 with 1 against Councillor Berry. I declare that the procedural motion has been won, and we now need to close the doors. Okay, thank you, councillors. We're now back behind closed doors, and the confidential item was moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Mayor Aitken, and the recommendation that we just dealt with is that the Chief Executive Officer's Performance Review Committee endorses the proposed Chief Executive Officer Key Performance Indicators for 2026-27 as detailed in Attachment 3 for Council approval, and recommend to Council that all KPIs are published. And that was unanimously accepted by the Council. Right, we'll now go back to item 4.1, which is the CEO report. The Q3 Corporate Performance Report and Chief Executive Officer's KPI update. Over to the CEO. I think you've got a presentation for us tonight.
I have, thank you, Chair. I'll run through it quite quickly. We've really only just been through a similar presentation, so there's not a heap of new information here, but happy to answer any questions at the end. In terms of third quarter highlights, there's still incredibly strong delivery across all of the council plan initiatives, currently sitting at about 96.8% are either on target, being monitored or are complete. I will go through in a bit of detail the 3 that have been deferred. Capital works continues to go incredibly well. We've currently delivered about 96.6 million at the end of March, representing about 73.5%, so well and truly on track for that 90% completion target. And in terms of the top capital projects, they're going well as well. That's just the council plan targets against on target being monitored, completed, and the 3 that are deferred right at the end. That's the same as per the council goals, but this is all in the report, so I won't go into too much detail. In terms of the projects that are under target or are being deferred, the first one there is the council meeting papers portal solution upgrade. As we talk about systems consolidation, we're very aware that a lot of the consolidated products have these features for elected members in a portal solution. So that one there is just waiting for the broader review. The construction of the sports hub in Wanneroo, I don't need to go into too much detail there. Council's well and truly aware of some of the challenges we've had regarding that particular project, and I'm sure once we've done a further analysis of other sites, that will come back to elected members. And the last one there is the implementation of a new CRM system, which has been picked up in the CEO KPIs for next year that will be recommended to Council, and a commitment to provide monthly updates in terms of the ongoing improvements we're looking to make in terms of that particular module, not just waiting for the consolidated approach. In terms of some of the KPIs that were set last year, in terms of the Alkimos Aquatic and Recreation Centre, Council obviously endorsed Bluefit to undertake the management of that centre. So that CPI, that KPI is actually complete. The financial strategy and transparency regarding the long-term financial plan was adopted by Council in 25, and I just want to touch on one element of that KPI in a minute. The strategic land acquisition is progressing well, and we have a further briefing to Council over the next few weeks. The organisational review, again, is going well and is on target. That will be coming back to Council again in the next couple of weeks at a concept forum. And in terms of the council member CRM turnaround times, we're currently looking at approximately 8 days at the end of April 2026, down from around 30. In terms of that financial strategy, part of that was for Council to consider an updated rates and revenue policy. Now, as you'd be aware, that is all tied up in the local government reforms. We have received some updated information. I'm happy to circulate this or put it in the wrap if that would be helpful for all councillors. But we're yet to get any detail on that particular provision. So we could try and front run the regulations. My experience has been that hasn't been overly successful when you try and do that. You get your community to comment on a particular policy or position, and then a couple of months later you're getting them to go through the process and do it again. So I'd recommend just doing it once. So at this point in time, I'm going to wait for the regulations to be finalised before pursuing that particular outcome. In terms of the capital works completion rates, there's a graph there that grows, that basically reflects from the last update that we did, currently sitting at about 73.5%. And historically, Humminda and his team are doing a remarkable job in terms of their improvements from a planning and delivery perspective, so they should be congratulated. There's just another graph there that basically shows that what we've completed to the end of March is almost the equivalent of what we did in the entirety of last year. So far this year we're sitting at 96.6 and last year we did 97.1. So again, very comfortable that we're going to hit that 90% target. In terms of the CRMs, there's just some information there in terms of the quantity of CRMs that have been raised each month, and as you can see, trending downwards. I think we still have a lot of improvements to make there. I know councillors are also interested in setting some KPIs and fixed targets and then resourcing that properly, so more than happy to have that conversation. And just on two additional points, obviously council sets KPIs for the CEO each year, but there's a lot that happens outside of that, and two areas that I'm particularly happy with that I think have gone exceptionally well. The first one is the Alkimos Arc project. So it's the largest project I understand that the city has ever delivered, and at this point in time it's on time and on budget. There is some information in the report that suggests that it is heading, or it is above budget, and that was kindly pointed out by the Deputy Mayor earlier today, but that's purely from a cash flow perspective in terms of the amount of money that's going to be spent this year, not the entire project budget, which spans multiple financial years. And the last one is there, a couple of years ago, the city was in an interesting position from a waste management perspective in that we knew that Tamala Park was closing. I think how quickly the elected group has managed to pivot, to do a lot of hard work and make some really challenging decisions. I think it's this week and next week we've got the opportunity to tour the Wangara transfer station, which I know the team's very proud of, and the work that's obviously happening around Neerabup is going exceptionally well. So they're just two things that have happened throughout the year that the administration's incredibly proud of. And that was it. So I'm happy to take any questions, Deputy Mayor. I'll let you get the process right in terms of moving and seconding, and we can go from there.
Yes, I'll be moving this item, councillors. I need a seconder for this item. Mayor Aitken. And I don't need to talk about the item. I think it pretty much articulates, and the CEO's done a point on that. So I'm happy to. Mayor Aitken, did you need to speak as the seconder?
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. On page 34, the road upgrades to Flynn Drive in Neerabup, have we continued to go through Sabine with the delays? Because we're waiting clearing approvals from the state and federal government agencies, and Sabine and the local members said that they would be able to help us. Have we been following through with that?
So you're referring to the member for Wanneroo?
Page 34, the member for Wanneroo.
Member for
yeah, the member for Wanneroo and the member for Pierce. Thank you.
CEO?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor, for the questions. Yes, we have. And what the local member has done is kindly referred some of those inquiries through to the Deputy Premier's office, so the most recent contact has come through that avenue. We're obviously advocating as well through both the state and federal government for some additional funding, so we won't know until budgets are handed down how we're going to go there. But regardless, I know that the Works team has a couple of plans in terms of how we could potentially complete that project. It may not happen as quickly under one of the options, but certainly a discussion we'll have with council as soon as we've got more information.
Thank you. Thank you. That was all. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Chair. I just had two questions from my perspective. Both of them are on page 30, and it was in regards to the new local planning scheme number 3. I was just wondering, will there be workshops for councillors to have input on each of those sections? I note that when we did our local planning strategy, we had a lot of councillor input. Obviously, the scheme is the enforcement part of that. Are we going to have the same opportunity through that process? Because I don't believe anything's come up, and not that I could see in the concept forum calendar or schedule.
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Look, my guess is that, yes, there will be some interaction with elected members, but if it's okay, I'll get some further detail on that and come back to you through the Director.
Thanks, Chair. And just my last question was on the same page as well, the Smart City Strategy. Throughout the update, there was two mentions, one around street lighting and the other one around water meters. I'm just wondering, is there anything else that the city is actually pursuing under the strategy in relation to smart city technology? I just think it's being a bit underutilised at the moment. I'm not sure whether there is any other initiatives that we could maybe promote or push a bit more.
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Wright, for the question. There is a fair bit happening in that space, and it mainly happens through the land development team. So I know with East Wanneroo, where it's at the moment, some opportunities there from a lighting and also broader communications perspective. I know the team are looking very closely at the moment, including some quite exciting financial models around the ownership of infrastructure in those areas. So it might be more appropriate, if you want a fair bit of detail in terms of the smart city strategy, that we get a briefing note prepared for elected members so that you're aware of all the activities that the city's working on.
Councillor Berry?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Miles. I've got a few questions on CRMs. And I note that you just said 8 days. I'll give some examples. I submitted a CRM on the 11th of 12th, 2025, received a response on the 20th of the 4th, 2026. Quite happy to give you these after. Submitted a CRM, I've got it with me, on the 3rd of November, finally got a response on the 29th of April. So I'm afraid I disagree with the CEO that the CRM process has got better. I'd like some reassurance that, you know, we're working in the right direction, because it seems some CRMs do slip through the cracks. And what I get is it came in, but there was an administrative error when the CRM was created, and the service unit apologises. But in the meantime, some of the public are getting answered still before we are, which puts us in a very awkward position. Could the CEO comment, please?
CEO?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I don't have any details around your inquiries there, so more than happy to look at them offline. The 8 days is an average that we provide, so obviously there's going to be examples where an inquiry hasn't been as easy to deal with, and there's going to be examples of where inquiries are incredibly easy to deal with and are probably done within a couple of hours. So more than happy to take that offline. But what I will say, and the data is pretty clear, is that the trend is heading in the right direction. The quantity of CRMs is relatively consistent, so it's not like we're doing better and we're getting less. Despite having some pretty intense months, the numbers are still coming down. And I think Councillor Wright might even run his own spreadsheet, and I'm not quite sure how far our numbers are off his, but that would be an interesting point to look at. Look, I guess we're continuing to refine. I guess, you know, in talking about KPIs for the CEO and focusing on the CRM side of things, it's not as though we're going to sit on our hands now and just do nothing for the next couple of years while we potentially seek to consolidate. It's continual improvement. There's opportunities to go back and have a look at the process. There's upgrades to the system. There's the new website coming on board. So I feel as though we are heading in the right direction. Are we at our destination where I can put my hand on my heart and say everything's fantastic? No, we're a fair way from that, but I think things are headed in the right direction.
Councillor Berry?
Thank you. I want to refer to page 24 of the report, and it's got on the first item, construction of the new beach access way at Two Rocks Beach, tender recommendation going to April council meeting. We've had April council meeting, so I think that the wording should be changed. I then want to refer to page 25, and this is redevelopment of the old Jan Shep Surf life-saving site. And it says this is to be ready for final review and DA lodgement in April or May 2026. Well, April's gone, so has it been lodged or will it be lodged in May? Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Berry, for the questions. I guess what you need to remember is the staff that have prepared this report are working up to the end of March. So there is always going to be some dates that occur slightly after that we may hit or we may miss, but it's their best estimate at that particular point in time. I know that process is close, but you know the accuracy we've got in terms of when someone submits a DA is essentially at the discretion of the developer, so we don't always have a lot of control over that. All we can do is liaise very closely with them, but certainly take those two comments on board. Whether we need to change anything for the council meeting or whether it's a point in time comment, I'll probably need to reflect on it once we're finished tonight.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Berry.
Thank you. I move to page 32, and it's participate in and promote the Department of Transport. So this is the continued engagement with schools, taking part in the initiatives, and it does say that we're going to try and encourage new schools. Is there a target in percentage terms of how many schools we're trying to attract to use that service? Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. That's a fair bit of detail in that question. I would need to take that on notice. I don't have that level of detail in terms of the targets that are set by the transport team. I'm sorry.
Just on that one, CEO, would it be something that council would set as a target in its appropriate document?
I don't want to say yes, Deputy Mayor, and get that wrong. So if it's okay, I will take that one on notice. I will liaise with the team and I'll need to get back to the committee if that's okay.
No worries, thank you. Councillor Berry, did you have a final one? Hang on, Councillor Berry. I think Mayor Aiken's wants to do a follow-up question on that item.
Thank you. Mr CEO, could you please, on the participation in the schools taking part in the Your Move program, could you also find out if it's the school's choice whether they participate or not, and if the option is given to all schools and then they choose whether they participate or not? Thank you.
CEO?
I can do that.
Councillor Berry?
Thank you. I refer to page 34, and it's the review of the Regional Homelessness Plan, which is quite topical at the moment. It goes through to say that, well, basically, my question is, how will the review and identified priorities translate into actions in our area? Because we can do many reviews, but we're not assisting to solve the issue. So I just want to know what the priorities are. Thank you.
The CEO?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Berry. I think you'll find that the city's current policy position is regarding advocacy and trying to connect people to services. Now, if council is of the view or the opinion that you want to change that policy position, I guess that is what is going to fall out of that review. We don't have the answers yet. That's something that we need to work through from council, but you do have an established policy position and the city is currently working to that. But at the end of the day, you do have discretion over what that looks like. And obviously, if you do, there will be resourcing and budgetary implications associated with that. I know Councillor Bedworth is working on a notice of motion also for, might be this month.
Councillor Berry?
Thank you. On page 35, under the Strategic Social Needs Advocacy, it says delivered a presentation to the North West Metropolitan District Leadership and then met with the Office of Homelessness and the Chair of Joondalup Wanneroo Ending Homelessness Group. Who delivered the presentation and who actually met with that group, please?
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Berry. It wasn't me. I'm very, very sure that is the case. It would either be the Director of Community in Place or the Manager of Community Development would have given that particular presentation.
Councillor Berry?
Thank you. I refer to page 39, develop council member training programme. A council member training calendar has been developed and continues to be expanded. Where do we find the council member training, and would it be possible to give it to us on the wrap weekly like we get our member diary? Thank you.
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Miles. The city has worked tirelessly over the last few months to try and put together an elected member training program. We've had a lot of options and received a lot of feedback from elected members. We have now settled on a training program. I understand, I'm sort of looking at the General Council now, I'm pretty sure that's in everybody's diaries. If you would like a forecast out in terms of the details of those training sessions in the RAP, we can certainly do that. It has been a challenging process, I will be honest. There's, I guess, a lot of need, and putting together something that appeals to all 15 elected members has been challenging, but I think we've landed on something now that meets the needs of most members.
Councillor Berry.
Thank you. Yes, we did get a briefing note on it. I just think it might be worth so dates don't get missed, and all councillors have the option to attend the training and can't say they missed it, that it would be good to have it on a list. Also on page 39, develop a strategic procurement plan. Slightly behind on timeline, but this was developed and this will be developed and completed with some external procurement support. Was this originally going to be developed with external procurement, or was it originally going to be done in-house? And how much is the external support liable to cost us? Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Berry. I do have some issues with the development of the strategic procurement plan, so I think towards the end of this quarter you'll probably get a more comprehensive update. I guess what I'm a little bit concerned about is I am getting feedback from elected members that they do have some challenges with the city's procurement policy, and adding a strategy on top of that, I just don't want to add layers of bureaucracy for no particular reason. So I think as a first point, I wouldn't mind sitting down and having quite a robust discussion with elected members around actually our policy to see whether we can just have the one document and deal with the issues through that, which is obviously a legislative requirement, as opposed to then having the strategy and the policy. So I think you might see that one will change from monitor to particularly deferred. Important piece of work, but feedback we get quite regularly from elected members is that our policy overall is okay, and it obviously ticks all of the legislative requirements, but in terms of the lower purchasing amounts, the requirements are sometimes too onerous for small businesses. And as a local government that wants to promote economic development within our city and encourage small businesses to thrive, you know, for low risk, low value items, requiring somebody to have, you know, a diversity plan, an environmental safety plan, and all of those things that a big business has at their disposal, sometimes, you know, may not be hitting the mark. So pretty keen to go back and review that, but that'll be something we sit down and go into a bit of detail with elected members on.
Councillor Berry.
Thank you, that's great to hear. On page 41, we've got implementation of Project Management Office, PMO Enterprise Solution, and it says alternative options are now being explored. Is there a time frame of how long those alternative options are liable to take? Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. So we did look to consolidate the finance system and the project management system into a single system, and unfortunately it didn't yield the results that made it easy for the project managers to manage their projects, essentially, and at the end of the day they are the customers. So my understanding is, after a recent briefing, that they have implemented an interim system, so it's not as though they're operating without a project management system at the moment, and the feedback we're getting is that it's far easier to use from an update perspective. So I think by the time you see the next report, you'll probably have a more robust description of exactly where the team's at, but just wanted to reinforce that it's not as though we don't have a system at all. Projects are still being managed and managed appropriately. It's just that this upgrade didn't yield the benefits we hoped it would. And the last thing you want to do is do an upgrade and find out that your system is adding to inefficiencies.
Councillor Berry.
Thank you. Refer to page 42. Continuing progressing the implementation of smart city strategies. Can I ask what, for my benefit and anyone else who doesn't know what these things are, delivery of 107 NEMA 7 LCUs, what are they? Thank you.
They're very important to the city, I can tell you. CEO.
I think once upon a time I would have known exactly what that acronym was, but I certainly don't tonight. So if it's okay, Councillor Berry, I'll need to get back to you. And I think for the benefits of the group and for also myself, I will get the staff to provide the full explanation in future updates.
Just on that point, I guess, CEO, so the report that we have tonight would have been finalised by the administration by the end of March, and we're now in May, so we'll be getting another one soon, which is the final one. So all of these items will probably get wrapped up in the next report, is that correct?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Deputy Mayor. So what this particular committee has done is, by these reports coming through this committee, you've fast-tracked it being presented to council. So what we have here is we have the end of the March quarter, and it's being presented to the May council meeting, which is quite a quick turnaround than what we have historically. So at the end of the year, which will be the last quarter, this same committee will get the opportunity to have a look at this report again, and you'll see most of these actions are either going to be complete or they'll be deferred and recaptured next year. But from what you're seeing before you is projects that are largely on target to be completed this year.
Thank you. Councillor Berry?
Thank you. I'll move to page 44. Review business continuity plan and crisis management planning. Then it's got towards the bottom, the next phase will be focused on developing the business continuity plan. And it also says that we've been using a consultant. So will the next phase is to be undertaken also be done by a consultancy firm or in-house? Thank you.
CEO?
Thank you, Chair. If it's okay, I might defer this question because it's the General Council's project, and given we've got the officer in the room.
General Counsel.
Thank you for the question. The plan is that the business continuity procedure and guidelines and sub-plans will be undertaken in-house because we will have a longer period of time to do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Berry?
I'll now move to the review the communications and brand strategy. And that is also on page 44. It says at the bottom, this will help to continue the development of the new approach for communications and branding across the city. When is this integrated communications strategy going to be ready for our endorsement, please?
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Berry. I think what's added to that, and again, we're talking about something that was updated at the end of March. We obviously had a notice of motion that came through from Councillor Miles at the last council meeting. So I do need to sit down with the manager or acting manager, communications and brand, to see how that notice of motion, the implications on this particular document. So until I've done that, that was only Tuesday last week. Until I've done that, I probably don't know whether we're on target or potentially that one's going to have to be deferred. But it just will depend on the relationship between the notice of motion and the update here.
Mayor Aiken, you wanted to ask a question on this?
Yeah, I understood that there was a procedural motion to refer that back to a concept forum, not to action on either of the recommendations. Is that correct? So it will be discussed by council in a concept forum?
That is correct. It's been referred back to a concept forum. But I guess a lot of the things that were raised at that point directly impact on the strategic approach to comms at the city. So, you know, potentially if we were to rush this through now, councillors would rightly turn around and say, well, but hang on a minute, we've got a resolution here that referred back to a concept forum. So there may be some delays, but I'm assured that the team is working very hard because that's been a project that's rolled over on a number of different corporate business plans now.
Councillor Berry?
Thank you. We've received a briefing note during the month, and it was to do with staff turnover. I just want to know, why is the staff turnover is obviously what you gave us, but we're not capturing retired employees in that staff turnover, and the retired employees would still have associated costs like advertising, the interview time to replace them, and onboarding. So can we have updated turnover statistics, including the members that have retired, please, or staff that have retired? Thank you.
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Are you sure that those numbers don't include retired. I thought the term terminations also included the retired officers, but if that isn't the case, I'm happy to provide updated figures, but I thought it was all people that had left the city across those periods. I'm not sure why we would have left out people that retired.
Councillor Berry?
And my last question refers to page 3. It's the recommendation. Can we change the recommendation that the Chief Executive Officer's Performance Review Committee accepts the Chief Executive Officer Q3 corporate report and key performance indicator update for presentation to Council at the May 2026 Ordinary Council meeting, to that the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Committee receives, because we don't accept it as just us. It goes to whole council to be accepted. So can we change it to receives, please?
Are you wanting to amend? So can you repeat the amendment?
Please,
for the
can I
staff,
make an
please?
amendment that we change the word from that the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Committee accepts to that the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Committee receives, as it will actually be accepted by whole of council at the council meeting. Thank you.
So you're just adding the word receives after Q3.
I'm changing the word that the Chief Executive... Changes accepts to receives. Yeah, changes accepts to receives on line 1.
That was easier. I'm quite, as the mover, I'm quite happy to change it to receives, but I will just ask our General Counsel if that changes anything to do with the recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, that'll be okay, and we'll note it for the next reports.
Okay, Mayor Aiken, are you happy to accept that small change? Okay. If there are no other... Are you on a question? Councillor Rowe?
I was waiting very patiently.
It was just very.
I know, I was waiting very patiently. My questions, I believe, are not as specific as the ones that were just asked, CEO. On page 29, the last item refers to the Alkimos Regional Open Space. CEO, can I just please confirm that this project still remains on the city's advocacy plan? And putting this delicately, I wasn't able to attend a recent meeting of the Strategic Projects Working Group where it was discussed. Can I just confirm that there will be further discussion with the elected group at a later date, given the significance of this project?
Councillor CEO.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my recollection is that the updated advocacy list of projects came to Council late last year, and this remained in that list of projects. There is a lot of discussion, not as a council, but amongst councillors regarding regional open spaces more generally. But I would expect the size of that project, there will be another update at the next Strategic Projects Working Group.
Councillor Rowe?
Second question's perhaps a little bit more cheeky, but on page 31, implementation of golf courses strategic plan. I just wonder if the CEO could perhaps provide us with an update on those 2 golf course redevelopments that are getting ready to be underway.
CEO, it is cheeky.
Yes, thank you.
It's the next report.
Thank you for the question. Through the Chair, there was obviously a fair bit of media communications late last week, covered extensively in Perth now and surrounds. So those 2 projects are going exceptionally well. As you can see there, as part of the application process, both courses, they're under assessment by the Commission. We are expecting responses imminently, and we are essentially ready to go. We've been working very hard in terms of some vegetation issues, particularly at Wanneroo, but we think we've managed to redesign parts of that to alleviate some of the challenges. We're at a point now where we're even starting to receive requests if people can come and test it early as possible. So I've already started to receive a few of those emails. So I said queue up behind Councillor Rowe.
Councillor Rowe?
Thank you, Chair. On page 38, in terms of the item that's been deferred, Council Meeting Papers Portal Solution, I understand this relates specifically to the technical solution, but in the absence of that body of work, being completed in the agreed time frame, can the CEO speak to if there are still systems and checks and balances in place so that when council members receive their meeting papers, it's undergone a process of oversight and due diligence to make sure that the information presented is as timely and accurate as possible?
CEO?
Thank you for that. In terms of, thank you, Councillor Rowe. In terms of the process that the city goes through in terms of generating reports and the approval process, nothing's changed. The process has multiple layers of approvals, goes from an officer authoring a report through a manager, through a director, is approved by the director, goes to agenda settlement, it's critiqued by a group of people before it finds its way to council. We sometimes have late reports, and that's where the quality unfortunately falls away. So where there's a particular issue or a staff member's battled to get some information, the late reports are typically where the quality drops away because it doesn't go through that robust review process. So nothing's changed. That portal there, at the moment you have the council hub that you use, and we get mixed feedback and reviews about the council hub. So it's really a review of that. We're continually refining, seeing if we can make it easier for councillors. I think the most recent thing we did is we removed some of the older information that wasn't relevant anymore. But the portal approach that some councils have recently adopted is where elected members are able to go into a central portal. You've got all of the documents that you've flagged there of interest. You can search for documents there. You can lodge your CRMs from that and monitor their progress. So it's a one-stop shop for elected members. But to have something like that, you really need a consolidated system. So we are going to be taking some interim steps over the next couple of months with the introduction of the Citizen Central portal as part of the Altitude product, which we've already got. So councillors will get to experience what a portal looks like there. So we're continuing to refine and update the package for elected members. And I think that was the request that came through from Councillor Wright, that we're not just sitting on our hands until such time as the CRM project concludes, that we are continuing to make enhancements and improvements, and that's what we're doing at the moment.
Councillor Rowe?
Thank you, Chair. Final question is on page 39 in terms of the council member training program, and I do acknowledge the work that General Counsel did. It was a real masterclass in diplomacy to try and prepare that program. Is there some degree of openness to considering as part of this the city's induction and re-induction process? Because I note that upon re-election last year, there was just an assumption that because there was very little turnover, we simply all knew what we were coming back into, and some slides were uploaded onto the hub. But as the organisation is about to experience something quite significant in terms of its change and its structure, is there an openness for this to also include how we induct ourselves to being elected members in the business, rather than just training that also helps us undertake our job?
CEO?
It's a really good point, Councillor Rowe, and through the chair, of course we're open to it. Anything the administration can do to help elected members in terms of their roles or understand the business a bit more, we'll do whatever we can. So if you had some ideas around what you might like to see, I'm more than happy to receive those, and we can see if we can incorporate something, particularly as we go through the Reimagine Wanneroo process, I guess. It could be very beneficial.
Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, I had two additional questions that popped up from the other councillors in the room.
I think you were just feeling left out.
Yeah, that's what we just said.
One of them was in regards to Councillor Rowe's point around the regional open space one, and I think I did ask that question for tomorrow night's session, but I'll ask it here. Because the Strategic Project Working Group resolved a decision, a recommendation, has that been gone through the administration channels to come to council for a wider conversation? I know you touched on it briefly with Councillor Rowe's response, but it wasn't quite, there was no outcome. I'm just curious as to an outcome from that. Obviously, it's got to be brought to a wider council forum for input. I'm just wondering if you had any further update on that.
I was just hoping, Councillor Rock, can you please trigger my memory in terms of that exact resolution itself? Have you got it there in front of you?
I don't have it from recollection, but we did have a amendment that was put forward at the Strategic Projects Working Group, and it was to remove the Alkimos Regional Open Space as we wanted state government to focus on regional solutions.
Through the chair, a point of order, should we be talking about this because the Strategic Projects Group, is that confidential?
I'll check with the General Counsel.
Because that going public when we're looking at what we're doing, that might be a bit concerning.
So we won't be revealing what was said at the strategic working because that is confidential. But if you want to reframe it differently, as Councillor Rowe did, you might be able to remind the CEO.
Yep, I can remind the CEO, but I do also note at the top of each agenda, it's up to the CEO to determine what can be released and what's not confidential. So if the CEO wants to release that, then happy for that. However, yeah, there was obviously a decision of the Strategic Working Group to recommend to full council to have a look at that particular project. So I'm not sure if that recollects your brain or anything, but there was obviously a process that we needed to go through to have a wider input into that.
So CEO, do you want to take that on notice?
I probably will, if that's okay, Deputy Mayor. Look, I do recall the meeting. I can't off the top of my head recall the resolution. I do know that it's tied up in the terms of reference and how the projects are assessed and reviewed and included on that particular group each year. So I will need to go back and refresh my memory in terms of that particular project and maybe get back to the group offline.
Councillor Wright?
Thank you. And just my last question was, on the final version of this report, which will be the next one coming to us, I'm just curious to also see if the progress of the council plan KPIs are included in that. So typically in the past, we've never received updates on the actual measured KPIs that council asks for. So for example, they don't fit into these capital projects, but they relate to, like, for example, how much tree canopy cover has the city retained, etc. All those very high level KPIs. So would that not be in the final report that comes to us before it goes in the annual report?
CEO?
Potentially, Councillor Wright. I guess just what we need to remember is that the amount of work that goes into preparing the annual report and all of the measuring against those KPIs is a very I guess, labour-intensive process. And what we're trying to do with this particular report is really focus on the council plan projects, the CEO KPIs, and so we'll wrap those up at the year. But I guess from a timing perspective, I don't think we're ever going to be in a position to have them all covered off in the last quarter update, because obviously we've got months and months and months until we finalise the annual report, and it takes the staff a fair bit of time to put that all together.
Okay, councillors, if there are no more questions, I'm going to close the debate on that as the mover, and we'll go to vote on this item of 4.1. All those in support of receiving, I'll read it out again, that the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Committee receives the Chief Executive Officer Q3 Corporate Report and Key Performance Indicator Update for presentation to Council at the May 2026 Ordinary Council meeting. If you'd like to cast your vote. That was unanimous. So all reports have been received. There are no late reports that I have listed. The next CEO Performance Review Committee has been scheduled for 6 p.m. Monday, 3rd of August of 2026, to be held here in the chamber. I close the meeting at 7 o'clock.